Hi guys, today we're going to be looking at the advantages and the disadvantages of living in an HOA community. Now, if you are thinking of living in an HOA community, you don't want to miss this video. Stay tuned. Now let's get started. Now, an HOA stands for a homeowners association. It's actually just a governing board that governs a particular community that is referred to as an HOA. Now, what are some of the advantages of living in an HOA community? First advantage is amenities. A lot of times in these HOA communities, you're going to find lots of amenities. So you're going to have access to things like you're going to have a community pool. You may have a playground area for the children. You may have, walking paths for your pets. You may have a tennis court. You may have a basketball court. You may have a clubhouse, which is a common community area. You may have restaurants. And what this does is that it gives the community a really, a family-oriented feel. And some of these, especially the newer communities, have a resort-like feeling to them. So you actually feel like you're living at an actual resort. So that is one of the advantages of living in an HOA. Another advantage of living in an HOA is maintenance. Now, there are some HOA communities that do offer maintenance of the exterior of your property. So if you're someone who doesn't like to think about things like lawn maintenance, getting the lawn cut, keeping the shrubbery nice and neatly maintained, there are some HOA communities that actually take care of that on your behalf. So that is also an advantage of living in an HOA. Bear in mind though that not all HOAs offer lawn maintenance services. So be sure to check out the rules of that particular HOA community that you may be thinking of before actually taking the plunge to live in that community. Another advantage of living in an HOA community is that many times that HOA community is going to be well maintained. Because the HOA is responsible for the exterior of the property, and the residents have to keep their properties up to a certain standard, then it results in the community looking nice and well maintained. Another advantage of living in an HOA community is that in some cases, persons tend to feel safer living in the HOA. And this applies especially to HOA communities that are gated. So some communities actually have a gate at the front. There may be a guard there, or there are security features that you have to go beyond these security features. You have to get past the security features. You may have to enter a code or something in order for the gates to be open for you to actually get inside that community. So it is regulated. Who enters the community, it is regulated. And so nobody can just come, enter the community, and nobody knows who they are or what they are coming about. So that can be an advantage also of living in an HOA. Bear in mind though that not all HOAs are gated. All right, not all HOAs are gated. There are some that actually don't have a gate, but there still is an HOA community. All right, let's look at the disadvantages of living in an HOA community. Number one disadvantage: HOA fees. Nobody likes to pay HOA fees, but if you live in an HOA community, you can rest assured, you can almost be guaranteed that you would have to pay HOA fees. Now, the HOA fees cover all these amenities that you may have access to. So if you have access to a pool, a clubhouse, you have lawn maintenance, well, all these things have a cost, and you have to pay an HOA fee to cover those costs. So the HOA fees vary by community. It may be a few $100s a month. It all depends on the community and what that particular community offers to the residents. So if you're thinking of a particular community, you need to check out what are the HOA fees for that particular community. So in addition, if you took a mortgage to buy that property, in addition to your mortgage, your property taxes, your insurance, you're going to have to think about paying HOA fees. Now, talking about HOA fees, there is another fee called a CDD fee, or Community Development District fee, that may be required to be paid by residents of an HOA community. And this especially applies to brand new communities that are, brand new construction communities. Now, these community development fees are fees that are paid to cover the cost of the infrastructure that is in that community. So the roads in the community, the street lights, the sidewalks, all these things have to be paid for, and usually it is the residents who stand the cost of these infrastructure that is in place in these communities. And these fees are normally paid off over probably 20-year or more period, 20 years to 40 years, depending on the particular community. And these CDD fees are paid with your annual property taxes. So if you're thinking of living in an HOA community, you need to check and ensure if there is a CDD fee that needs to be paid, and you need to take that cost into consideration. Another disadvantage of living in an HOA is that you are limited and restricted in terms of what you can do to your property. So if, for example, you want to change the paint color, or you want to put up a shed, or there's something that you want to change to the exterior of your property, you may have to get the approval of the HOA board. And normally you actually have to go through the process, make an application, and the board has to review that application and approve your request. So you can't just change things as you like. You have to get the approval of the board. Another disadvantage of living in an HOA is that actually living in the HOA requires the approval of that HOA board. So you submit an application, and a background check is done on you and your other family members that will actually be living in that particular community. Another disadvantage of living in an HOA is that for the most part, most communities, most HOA communities have restrictions in terms of whether or not you can actually rent out that property. They may have certain quotas, a certain number of homes in that community that are allowed to rent at any one time. So if you're thinking of buying a house in an HOA community and using it for a rental, then you must check with that HOA community to ensure that you will in fact be able to rent out that property. And some of them even, they may allow you to rent, but there is a time delay. So they may say for the first year or for the first 2 years of owning that property, you may not be able to rent it out. So those are some of the things that you need to consider if you're thinking of buying a property in an HOA community and renting it out. Another disadvantage of living in an HOA community is that you may also have to pay capital expenditure costs, especially for these brand new communities. If the community has restaurants and so on, you may have to pay food and beverage fees, and normally membership in these HOA communities is mandatory, but there are some communities that have some amenities, some services that are voluntary. All right, so those things you need to check out and make sure you know what is mandatory, what is voluntary before you actually go ahead and purchase a house in an HOA community. All right, so guys, those are the advantages and disadvantages of living in an HOA community. Now, if you're thinking of living in an HOA community anywhere here in Southwest Florida, be sure to give me a call. I can assist you in that purchase. If you have any questions on HOA communities, be sure to give me a call and let me know what you think, guys. Do you like HOA communities, or do you prefer not to live in an HOA? Let me know in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I am again Keesha Metcalfe with MVP Realty, your real estate lady from Southwest Florida. See you guys next week. Bye bye.